oppose one another and to come into conflict with one another and with our natural world. So I want to move us beyond the kind of thinking that I think leads us directly into conflict with one another and the world in which we live, to a kind of thinking in which we feel more of a sense of being within the world we inhabit. So it's more of a kind of thinking which is to do truly with a sense of inhabiting the world. And in inhabiting the world, learning lessons from the natural world itself. The world of plants, fungi, animals, whatever, bacteria. I'm a biologist, I'm a naturalist. And I'm used to studying or looking out and trying to teach students about the natural world. What I'm much less used to, and I'm much less used to my colleagues doing, is learning from the natural world, and learning from the natural world what it really means to be an inhabitant of the world, an inhabitant. Not some sort of alienated object which is looking out on the world and describing it in infinite detail, but what it really means to be included in the world. So I wrote this poem and I sent it off in my usual way to Friends of Wisdom and a few other discussion groups. I usually get virtually no response to my messages to Friends of Wisdom. But on this occasion, very quickly, I got a response from Maria Ann, over here, who expressed a certain thrill at having received this message. And we got into a conversation, and she said, well, now what do you want to do about this? And I said, I don't know. And we carried on talking, and eventually we met up one day. We almost didn't meet up because I forgot to take my mobile phone with me, which is kind of like what I do. but we did actually manage to meet up one day and have a chat about what we would like to do. And one of the ideas that we had was to try to develop some kind of outreach project. And this idea of some sort of outreach project also linked up with an idea which I've had with my wife Marion over there for some while, about how to bring our knowledge and love and passion for the natural world into the lives of more people. Because we feel that bringing that knowledge and passion and love for the natural world and how we view the natural world is something important. And so the two ideas kind of meshed. And so we thought, okay, well, let's just try and experiment. Let's think of a place that would be appropriate to bring a group of very diverse people together. And some of them will be done at some of my students, and two of you at least are here today, and I haven't seen some of you for years, so it's really wonderful to actually see you again, who studied a course that I teach at Bath University called Life, Environment and People. And that course is a course in which I try to engage biology students, psychology students, natural science students and management students in a different way of thinking about themselves in relation to their world. Essentially encouraging a sense of what it really means to be an inhabitant. And so the experiment began. I sent out an invitation. Didn't know how many would reply to it. This is how many of you replied to it in the affirmative, and at least as many again said, I'd have loved to have come, but it's not convenient. So a lot of people actually did express an interest in coming to an occasion like this. And then, of course, what are we trying to do with this kind of occasion? Well, first of all, I just wanted to bring very diverse people together and mix you together. That's already happened, actually. You didn't know it, or maybe you did know it, but that's actually part of today, was just bringing you as a diverse group of people into a receptive space. or a receptive place, like a place that is essentially, I like to think of as a crucible of creativity, that bringing an opening which brings people in, yeah, so that they can meet one another, exchange ideas with one another, learn from one another's experience and from their diversity. And that actually is part of the kind of process that I try to encourage also in the Life, Environment and People course that I teach at Bath University. And in a sense, this is the beginning of an experiment where I'm trying to think about, okay, how can I take my own learning from having run this course, which has been very hard to run, as some will recognise. I still haven't after 10 years. There was a time when people tried to stop me doing it. But it's kept going. And it's been a very intense learning process for me to run that course. And I think the students too have found it quite an intense learning process in many ways. But how could we bring what I've learned from that experience into a wider world? That's actually a question that I'm asking you, is how, from your experience of what's been happening today, and this is something just to be thinking about, where might we go from here? Because I quite honestly don't know. But I would love to find a way of outreaching to a wider community in this kind of way. So it's something to be thought about. Okay, so I was out yesterday collecting for students for a practical class. I'll be running in a few weeks' time, actually. And I collected this lovely, gorgeous creature. Does anyone know what this wonderful, gorgeous creature is, or does it look like one of the most alien life forms you can ever imagine? No? Yes? Anyone? Yeah? It's not that. It's this. It's a horsetail. Yes. And at this time of the year, if you go to the right kind of place, you can see there's extraordinary alien-looking life forms emerging out of the ground. Something like that. Well, indeed, the giant horsetails were very much one of the main kinds of plants which were around in the Carboniferous period. And this is a relic of those kinds of plants. But as I collected this horsetail, and I was thinking, why am I doing this?
It's the new Viagra.
I thought somebody might notice that. Why am I doing this? Why is this useful? Why am I doing this to the students? Why am I collecting this material? And I was also thinking, how am I going to introduce tomorrow's Naturescope? And as I was just sort of collecting this material, the idea of eye-opening came into my mind. But that's actually what a lot of my teaching, my educational style is about. I'm trying to open eyes to a world which for many people is unfamiliar, that they haven't experienced, because actually it's an extraordinary thing that so many of us human beings hardly know anything about the natural world we're inhabitants of. So a lot of my educational passion is about opening eyes. And then I thought, it's not just about opening eyes, it's about opening eyes. Opening the eye of the self to be receptive and responsive to the world that we inhabit. And that's essentially what inclusionality is about. It's just that sense of being a receptive place, a receptive hollow, if you like, which is open to inflow, and as nature flows into us, we flow out simultaneously. So